Welcome to Kate Was Here, an improvised storytelling experiment written and performed by Doug Banks and Kat Blackard. To support this and other surprise RPG experiences, head to patreon.com/omniversemedia.
So as he's riding with you, he says, Kate, I am sorry about everything that happened and that I had to send you a letter to even let you know that it was live, and I never wanted to leave you stranded anywhere, so how have you been getting on? How long has it been since you received my letter?
About a day. Things move pretty fast in the time travel business. Yeah, Doc, you know what's crazy is that I was thinking about it, looking back on everything, I think there's nothing that we can't talk about now. I think you know literally everything, which is amazing, because there's always been stuff that I haven't been allowed to tell you.
Like what?
Well, like the whole Biff Tannen timeline thing, and why that happened, and all the different versions of you that I've had to meet because of dealing with that problem. Biff Tannen going back in time from my timeline, from his version of my time, gosh, it's so confusing. Biff Tannen taking the sports almanac and giving it to his past self is what created my world.
He says, yeah, you had... Wow, so I'll say that just to truncate it,
yeah.
On this entire ride, you can, from the beginning, tell him literally everything, and he is just, amazed at hearing stories about you meeting other versions of him that he clearly, doesn't know about, how you sat with him, in Lou's Cafe, and he told you about his involvements in the Manhattan Project, and he's just like, oh, we've had that conversation. Okay, just...
yeah, but this is amazing, though, because you've always been like, don't tell me this. Don't, this. None of this ever happened, blah, blah, blah. And I've been very good, Doc. I've been very, very good.
Yeah.
But this is it.
And when you get to the part about meeting him, the first time you met him in, I think, 1956...
first time I met him was in the institution.
No. The first time you met him in 56.
Oh, sure, yeah.
When he was...
With the trains.
Right, with the trains, and he was all depressed. And you explain the story of how he was depressed because he knew when he was going to die because he saw the tombstone. And he's just like, oh, of course, that makes so much sense why I couldn't remember it. I thought when I arrived here and Marty showed up and said that I was going to die, I have no memory of knowing that I was going to die. How could that happen? I had no memory of Marty staying there in 1955. And so it all clicks as to how the doc then didn't know that he was about to be shot. And it took Marty having to come back, and the fact that you erased his memory, but that also kept the time stream intact, and how it's all been integral and part of this. And then obviously not knowing that he's about to go back, to 1885, but you also kind of knew, and you feeling guilty, but he reassures you that don't feel bad. If I asked you to do it, it was for a good reason. And now, of course, knowing not only about the Biff Tannen timeline and how that almost caused this crazy paradox, but also now that now that Biff Tannen, his version of things, is out of the picture, now there's a possibly much bigger problem with this nuclear apocalypse that's bound to happen. So he says, well, assuming we can all get through this fine, then I can... really, I need to invest in things to make sure that certain inventions either don't exist ever or don't exist by the time the apocalypse happens. So I'll have to make those plans. I've already been speaking to a banker in San Francisco to make some deals on the San Francisco Stock Exchange and get things rolling, and try at the same time not to go overboard and fight the temptation to get super rich, because that could overthrow things that are supposed to happen in the future with normal bits of technology that are supposed to happen. That might even help prevent the apocalypse from happening.
Is there any reason to believe that the apocalypse is more than just a bunch of stray accidents? Do you have any, does it appear the Mr. Fusion thing is malicious? Is it an attack from somebody? Is it...
From the information I have, it appears to have been what was seeming to be a harmless computer virus that was meant to cause inconvenience, accidentally went out of control, shut down the safety protocols for the nuclear reactors, and caused the chain reaction, which had nuclear meltdowns everywhere. Because everything was connected on, wireless technology, on the internet, it just had a cascade failure that whoever did it couldn't possibly have expected. So really, it was computer virus and a hole in the security systems.
Machine that's just too big to Be trusted.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after you ride for a little bit, by the time you tell the entire story and Doc tells it from his perspective, I mean, it is really nice to sort of see him again and, to see that he is... And he brings you up to speed on what's been happening in 1885.
Yeah.
Clearly, the story from Marty's perspective, but hearing it from Doc's perspective, because he was there for almost a year. In fact, he says that come New Year, he will be here for a year. And... he explains how he's works as the blacksmith, shoeing horses and stuff like that. But that he runs the livery feed and stable. He was never usually partial horses, but after he learned to do it, he runs like a partial board there, and he also runs a self board. So people basically can rent horses from him or rent the space to have their horses stay there. So that's how he makes the money, and in combination with blacksmithing, to continue his pursuit of science and understanding. But there's a lot of things he just can't tell people, that he's anxiously looking forward to things. But with Clara, how he talks, then he starts gushing about her, like how much he loves her because she's been interested in science her whole life, and how they clicked, and you really start to see him light up in a way that he talks about her as you haven't heard him talk that way about anything.
Yeah.
And so he does.
It's noticeable.
It's the real thing.
Yeah.
And the time goes by so fast just from him talking about her and keeping it, bringing her up to speed and everything, that you eventually reach Claire's house, and you can hitch the horses up, go up. Doc will knock on the door, and Clara answers, and she's like, "Oh, Emmett," and then she sees that someone's with you, and Mr. And then Doc goes, this is actually my friend Kate. Kate, this is Clara. And if you take your hat off and come inside.
Why, hello.
Yeah.
And I take a certain pleasure in being like deceptive lady cowboy.
Yeah. He goes, oh, well, come in. And so you can come in and sit, and she has like a fire going, and it's really cozy inside, and you can sit on, like, they have like a little love seat and like a couple of armchairs and stuff. So Doc says, Kate is a very good friend of mine from the year 2016. And you see Clara just kind of take this, like, her eyes kind of widen in just surprise, but understanding, but just hard to imagine. It's like, how are things in the future?
Better than they were, thanks to Doc.
And so, yeah, and he says, she's come to pay us a visit to warn us that tomorrow there's going to be a blizzard, and unless we take precautions, a lot of people are going to perish. So I think it's best that you cancel classes for tomorrow. I could stay here with you, and we can just ride out the blizzard. It should only last about 24 hours, and we can then have Thanksgiving just as we planned, and everything will be fine. And she goes, well, of course. And Kate, is it? Thank you so much for coming all this way just to tell us. We had a smaller blizzard earlier, had a flurry, but it was not quite as bad as this is sounding. So
it's a really bad one, Clara, but it's also a real pleasure to meet you. It's incredible to meet somebody who makes Doc light up like that. I've never seen it. And
she kind of blushes because, the feeling's mutual, I can assure you. And so Doc says, so Kate, you're supposed to only have a couple of hours, but I can't shake the feeling that you might be in some trouble.
Why? What? Why? What's happened now?
Well, I may not have pressed upon you the importance of recognizing that your time dispersal field was already somewhat of a permanent thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was having an effect on the flux capacitor and the time circuits of the DeLorean time machine.
Right.
I worry you may be stuck here. it's not. It's. I understand that's maybe a shock, but it's really quite serious.
Doc, I don't think you understand what my life is. It's a wild ride. Nothing is... It's all serious, and it's also not serious. I mean... So I'm stuck in cowboy times. That's too bad. But, like, also, what else is new? I mean... Do you want me to draw you a map of how fucked up my timeline is?
And Clara is just looking at you really strangely with the language, that you're using. And Doc is, I know your life since stepping in to the first time chamber has been anything but normal or easily predictable.
Look, Doc, maybe I bounce back, maybe I don't. I don't know. Do I want to live here? I don't know. But, look, the most important part is you're not going to die. Marty knows enough that, if we got to pass information along to him, he can take care of it. Either way, the future won't turn into a new Dust Bowl, and things will be fine.
I mean...
I gave in to the nihilism of the time stream long ago, Doc.
I'm glad you're seeing things fourth dimensionally. The idea that really the most important thing is to prevent this disaster from happening in 2045.
Look,
so
I'm sure I'll have a grand old time as long as I don't die of the dysentery.
Yes, that's actually quite common. Then I guess in the meantime, make yourself comfortable, and we'll try and ride this storm out together.
Oh, this is too much.
And Clara's like, I'll prepare the guest room, so she'll go over, and there's two rooms. It's just the master bedroom and just one little side room. And
do you have anything to drink?
Yeah. He says, we can get you something, I'm sure. And he'll go through there's a china cabinet, and there'll be he can get a bottle, and he'll bring something to you and it's just it's not quite as strong as what we're used to, but...
Well, Doc, here's to the vast uncertainty of time.
Tink. And he will not drink, but he will clink your glass and then just set it, and you notice that he does not drink it. He pours himself a glass but does not drink.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, anything I can do to help batten down the hatches for the big chill?
I suppose it wouldn't hurt to, board up some of the shutters now, and I can go take care of the schoolhouse, board that up.
Yeah, I guess, so what would have happened is that school would have been in session as usual, you would have been blacksmithing as usual, and then suddenly, boom, it's a blizzard, everything's upended. So that's the most logical prevention is cancel school, batten down the hatches here, and there's no reason that in 24 hours' time, everything shouldn't be fine.
Yes, as long as we make it through, that should be fine. So, he'll step out, take care of the schoolhouse. He'll board it up, make sure it's all sealed and everything. Clara is going to prepare the bed for you and everything so you can stay, and board up some of the windows from the outside. It'll take maybe 20 minutes or so, and Doc will then say that he can. Take the horses back to the blacksmith's, stable them there for the night, make sure it's all boarded up, and then he can walk back and be here, before midnight, and just ride it out and see what happens.
All right. Well, it's cool to be able to hang with this very chill couple. For this time, and I guess if everybody's sleeping, I'm not sure what my schedule's like. It's been a little bit of a bumpy ride, but if I'm tired, I'm tired, and I'll sleep, and if not, I will
well, it was late at night when you left 2016,
yeah.
and it was 9 o'clock-ish when you arrived here, so your sleeping schedule is not really too messed up.
Okay.
That mixed in with just the stress of time travel and everything like that, you could probably, go to bed really
cool.
pretty easily. So is there anything you want to do before you went to bed? Is there anything you wanted to talk or do, discuss, just get ready, or just
if they're awake, I'm hanging out with them. I'll be in an open book for Clara or whatever. I don't know what Doc's rules are about talking about things, but
as he approached, he said that he told her that he was a time traveler and that she knew pretty much everything. So I don't see
okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure she with her Jules Verne interests is probably rather interested in Kate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm amicable. I'm in. This is. I don't know if I'm stuck here or not, but we'll find out soon enough. Maybe I'll disappear in the night. Who knows? Either way, it's exciting. It's good to see my friend. It's nice to be in a warm space in this weird Western cosplay that I've wandered into, and we'll see what happens.
So
I guess really, if it's nighttime and it's 9, then I'm waiting for 11 p.m. ish, and just to see what happens. I'll be awake until I know for certain that maybe I'll disappear in the night, or maybe I won't.
Doc will stay up with you. So Clara will excuse herself and thank you for visiting, and she says I feel rather conflicted that I would like to see you again, but I also hope that you're not here when we wake up.
Hey, same, big same.
So if I don't see you, it was very nice meeting you, and thank you again.
It's been a pleasure, Clara, a real pleasure. So
she'll excuse herself for the night, and Doc will sit with you by the fire, and just see they have a little clock on the mantelpiece, and he'll be constantly checking that versus his pocket watch.
Tick tock.
Yeah. And I'll say that as the night goes on, you make a little bit of small talk, but Doc gets increasingly more concerned. Not uncontrollable, but definitely less and less contributing to the conversation. And as 11 o'clock finally rolls around, you're still here, and you don't.
No, I haven't turned into a pumpkin.
Yeah, you don't feel the typical thing of the sharp pain or any of that stuff.
Well, damn, Doc. Looks like you were right.
He says, Kate, I'm sorry.
It's okay, Doc. There's a whole rich history of queer cowboy fiction out there, and gosh darn it, if I got to be a part of it, well, shoot.
He says, well, yeah, I don't know if you're ready to be a hand at a ranch or anything like that. It's the 1880s in reality are harder to adjust to than you might think.
I'm sorry if it feels like I'm taking this too lightly. We've been through a lot.
We have, and we're about to go through a lot tomorrow, if everything is to be correct.
It'll be nice to do nothing for a while, and even if that nothing is slinging hay or learning to lasso things, that's great, because it's been one thing after another. So here we are.
So after you stay up until maybe midnight and just talking with Doc, and he's a little relieved that you're not as upset about being stuck in the 1880s as he'd expect somebody from 2016 to be, but acknowledges that you never really felt like the 2016 that you were in felt like home anyway.
Yeah. And
you've been hopping back and forth across time for forever at this point. So it's what else is new, really?
Yeah,
in terms
exactly.
of being stuck somewhere. So he'll wish you good night, and then if you want to turn in, you can turn in, and
we'll turn in.
Then I'll say pretty easily you can fall asleep, and tomorrow you wake up, things are quiet, but I'll say you probably wake up around a little after. I mean, it's not at sunrise, but the sun had already come up a bit, so it's probably 8 in the morning, because you hear Doc and Claire moving around because there's not a lot of insulation, the soundproofing rather inside the house.
Sure.
So it's easy to hear them when they get up and stuff.
Hopefully, plenty of insulation.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is it seems like it seems like a pretty nice place and feels really cozy. It was a little cool out when you rode up, but now very warm, nice and
sure. I mean, that's just California at night, right?
Mm-hmm. So by the time you get out of bed, there is a fire going in the fireplace again, and Doc had run into town to do a few more things to get the word out, but he should already be on his way back, according to Clara. And sure enough, he shows up. There's plenty of time. So there's about an hour before this blizzard is supposed. Little more than an hour before the blizzard's supposed to start. Unless there's anything that you think needs to be done, Doc thinks they're ready to go.
Cool. Great.
He even picked up some extra food last minute just to be safe. Warned more people in town that the blizzard's supposed to be on its way and to go home, and that everyone already knows the school's been canceled and everything like that. So, not everyone seems to have believed it right out, but enough people have definitely said, well, they take it seriously.
Yeah.
So, when Doc comes back, he says that he saw people wearing heavier coats and stuff, and just hopes that word had got out enough to people who maybe were out on the farm. Maybe they came in to visit for the morning, or he just hopes that enough word can get out. But then that's that. So we can sort of fast forward a little bit and get to the point where it's getting worse and worse out. The snow started to fall, and much like in the letters we're describing, within about 20 minutes, it went from no snowfall whatsoever to heavy snowfall to seeing a wall on the horizon moving in of just thick white carpet, just like snow coming in. And within 30 minutes of when the first snow fell, that's a little too loud, but it is a full-on bad blizzard. I mean, you've lived in California your whole life. You've never seen something like this.
Yeah, I've been spending the morning talking to Clara, helping with anything I can, snapping a couple pictures here and there, and I'm definitely I don't know if there's anything I could actually capture about that wall coming in, but I think that's very interesting. There's a visual to it on the horizon.
I mean, yeah, it just looks like a white like fog that reaches to the sky. I mean, and slowly as it came in, you watched it come in.
Maybe I'll do some video on my phone then. That's probably the best way to capture it.
Do you show that to Clara? Do you show her the technology?
Hey, if she wants to see it and Doc isn't putting the kibosh on it, then yeah, absolutely. Because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's
fun.
fun.
I mean, she saw the hoverboard, so it's what more,
check this out.
Yeah. And she is endlessly fascinated by it, and she just giggles at it like it's, it's a toy. I mean, it's this childlike side of wonder just comes out, and you can let her mess with it, and she starts flipping through the phone with her fingers, and just she is much like your grandparents when you showed them the smartphone. She's just even more so, just can't even believe that it's glowing. It's in her hand, and she can move the things around.
I can give her the whole presentation of here's the adventures I've been on. Here's my whole story.
She's like, it's like pictures in a book that you can move. It's incredible. And she's like, Emmett, have you seen these? And he's like, yes, Clara. As he's very concerned about.
Doc, here's something you haven't seen. I show him video of himself talking in other timelines. Here's you in alternate reality, 1985.
Yeah, and he watches that with like he's seen a ghost, and it's just that's fascinating, but it makes me very uncomfortable. I look horrible. Because he's been in, you explained, well, yeah, you've been in the insane asylum, so, yeah, insane. So it's
everything's connected.
Clara, as Doc is around, Clara seems reserved. Whenever, because they're all in the house or whatever, so she definitely expresses. She seems to have a really strong interest in everything in the future, but it seems to be afraid to ask too many questions. But Doc isn't saying anything, so she's just sort of looking to see how much she can get away with, and is well, what's this like, and what's this like, and she wants to know are there any songs that that are from the 1800s now? Do you know anything from these times? What's carried over? What are some things that you know?
That's a good question. Well, the hard part is that everything gets so mashed together that I don't necessarily know when anything is from. Oh, Susanna? Is that a song now? Or is that too new or too old? I'm not sure. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. For I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee.
Yeah, that's a song. Yeah,
Great.
I know that one, yes.
Okay, some things
that's she's amazed.
inexplicably stick around.
She wants to know what's art like,
Strap yourself in, Clara. I'm gonna play you some Radiohead.
Yeah, you do have stuff on your phone. Like, so she wants to know, like, what's music like in your time? So what do you want to play for her?
I'm gonna play her. I'm gonna put headphones in and I'm gonna say, okay, Clara, I want you to understand that this can be very, very intense. It could be like a drug. So, but it's fine. It can stop at any point in time. But I'm gonna play you one of the greatest records ever made. It's called Kid A.
So you have it on your phone, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
And then, all right, so let me get it ready here. So she'll listen to it, and it's like, oh, it sounds like a church organ, you know? It's like just making comments like every few seconds on like all these things, and just her face is like, it's just so strange to her, but yet she's fascinated. So you're thinking maybe she's gonna be intimidated and like.
I know some people have tripped out big time on this record, so I understand that I'm doing a very dangerous experiment here.
Well, for her, it's just she's endlessly fascinated. Even you're thinking like at any point now that smile's gonna turn into a frown and get freaked out, but it's not happening. Like she's just like I mean, the fact that she has her hands cupped over the earphones. And is just like listening and just like sort of staring off, like eyes moving around as she's like processing what she's hearing. So you can hear a little bit of like what she's hearing, but yeah, she's long past the point where you think she'd be freaking out, but she's still into it. And it doesn't. So anyway, that's gonna go on for as long as you let it go on.
Not even Doc knows about this. He's like out of the loop on this stuff. This is my stuff.
So she'll sit there and listen to that until you stop. Until you stop her.
Cool.
Meanwhile, Doc, will nervously sip on some coffee, and sort of peek through the cracks in the shutters to see the snow and stuff. He's not overly concerned, but he's definitely just paying it mind, because if the blizzard's going to be as deadly as it is, he's, So I guess at this point, if you notice that he's doing this, and he'll motion for you to come over and tell you. He basically voices the concern that if the blizzard is as serious as you described, he says, I wonder if some of the people who may have perished in this storm, if the snow gets too high, what's going to happen to the roofing structures and the walls, and if enough cold wind gets in under the door, and so you're starting to hear him quietly express some of the more extreme concerns, which you're feeling like this is fine. Like you're feeling like this house seems pretty sturdy, but he definitely is concerned about people that he cares about, in this house, and is uncharacteristically sort of nervous, like he's facing down death, because he knows that it's not just him that dies, but Clara. And I don't think you mentioned to Clara that she was supposed to die in the blizzard. You just said that, oh yeah, dangerous and people might die, and that's kind of what Doc was suggesting. So Clara seems blissfully unaware of.
If that's Doc's lead, I'll follow it. Otherwise, I don't have a problem with telling somebody that I saved their life. That's cool.
Right. He definitely did not mention. He said you made it clear that he was going to die, but no one mentioned anything about Clara. And he says, the one thing I haven't told Clara was that she was supposed to go over into the ravine. And
Clayton Ravine. Dang, okay, I hadn't put that together yet.
Yes, and she, according to what Marty told me, what he knew, she was supposed to go over the ravine. That's when we met, and it's altered history in probably a minor way, but
yeah, it's fine. Everything's fine, Doc.
But I haven't told her, so
okay.
Just
I won't say anything.
I don't know if I can. I don't know when would be a good time to do that. It's already the stresses of
I don't know.
Being engaged with someone who's from the future, who knows more than her, but doesn't like to talk too much about it, and she has such an interest in it, and I feel bad for not telling her more, but
I mean,
if word gets out, and even in the slightest way, it could prevent important things from happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're worried about that, though, are you sure that she doesn't want to come back with you? I mean, think about it, Doc. She was supposed to die. You're worried about the butterfly effect and everything. Now, I can tell you that things seem fine in 2016. But, like, she's listening to Kid A right now, and she's into it. Like, she's listening to the most beautiful, artful, weirdest music that the future has to offer. And maybe this lady wants to be a time traveler. It worked out okay for me.
If it was even possible, I fear for what it might do to her if she decided she didn't, if it was too much and she wanted to come back.
You can always come back. You can always come back. That's the beauty of it. You can always come back to exactly where you left off and no one will be any the wiser.
He nods, taking some of your thoughts into consideration, but as your conversation goes on, he definitely expresses a concern for he doesn't want to damage her, like, in any way. Like, he doesn't want to. It's like he says that it was the fact that he saved her from going over in the wagon. He doesn't. He taking her to the future, if she can't mentally process it, it might cause irreparable emotional harm, where maybe there'd be a disassociation where if this is the time that he came from, how much can they really get along together? Is this not, in a weird way, taking advantage of someone who doesn't know the same things that he knows? And
you just gotta be honest with her, though. I mean, like, okay, let me ask you a question. Now, Clara seems extremely polite, very demure. I have a, loose understanding of what this time and place is actually like, but think about how her life has been shaped by patriarchy and misogyny and everything else. Like, she, as a woman, has had to come very far, even being out here in the wilderness, in the frontier, being a school teacher. And she's obviously taken a lot of risks with you. I don't know. I think maybe you're not giving her enough credit, and maybe the time period's rubbing off on you. Because, like, if you don't think for her, let her think for herself.
You're right. I'm trying not to. I just have this conflict of, on one hand, she's not supposed to be here.
Exactly.
And on the other hand, I'm not really supposed to be here either.
And I'm a professional and not supposed to be in some place.
But I've already removed you from your life of what was supposed to happen, whatever it was, and now I've permanently changed the course of her life, and I would hope it would be for the better. But such minor differences can have profound impacts on future events. It's what the future holds for us. If we're to have children, if we're to have a family, that's a whole generation of people that technically weren't supposed to have existed before. The same way that it would be creating something that wasn't supposed to have existed, in the same way that you were supposed to have existed, but now your future has been robbed from you.
But in the same way that all those timelines might still yet exist. We're just consciousnesses bouncing between different fractured spaces and in all of our, maybe not even fractures, maybe just like bouncing through variabilities. So like if it's possible that every single place we've jumped from continues to exist after we've been there, then everything we're doing is fine, because existence is a multitude. I've got a lot of weird perspectives,
Well, between your philosophy and the science behind it, maybe we could write a fantastic book one day that we could never share to anyone.
Or it would be so fantastic no one would ever believe it. Maybe your friend Jules Verne is actually a time traveler. Maybe he's you. I don't know what your prose is like.
Certainly not. He is an old man by now.
Well, naturally, he'd be avoiding, meeting up with you.
So anyway, the day can go on, and yeah, the snow is bad. It gets to a point where when it quiets down for just a brief moment, Doc can open the front door, and it's just a wall of ice that leads right up towards the top of the roof, where there's just a little bit of light coming in, and it's darker outside because you don't even get to see the sun, but it's not like nighttime. It's just like a cloud of white.
I feel like a margarita. How about you?
I feel more like a sardine myself. Yeah, you can have a really modest dinner. It's going to have like sort of a stew. There's some coffee, anything to keep everybody warm. Little bits of snow will flake in from under the door and stuff like that every now and then, but really it's not so bad. There's just a little bit of stir craziness to it, but it's really not that bad considering it's just 24 hours. It's very, very livable, very, very survivable. Clara will have finished the album at some point and was like, do you have more? And just like not just like I want to hear everything. And is
that's great. And what's even better is this phone is totally photovoltaic, so like it won't die. It just keeps going. I made that up. I hope that's okay.
I don't know what that means. You have to tell me what that means.
It means it's solar powered.
Oh well, when there's a sun, you can do it. So yeah. But yeah, so you can share more music and stuff. You could even probably, I don't think you have any videos on there, but you certainly have your photos and everything, so you can point out things like this is what this place looks like, this is what the courthouse looks like in the future, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, all of my photos and my videos going back, through the whole.
And you even show like the Ice Age, you can, then you, at this point, I think it's safe to show Doc the Ice Age photos. No, you did before. You actually showed him those Ice Age photos.
Yeah, because I was like, hey, look, you got to check this out.
Yeah. So showing everyone all that stuff, that's definitely photos from the past and the future, or the distant past. That is, it's pretty endlessly entertaining. Plus, Claire can just scroll all day, even when it's just back and forth between two photos. I just can't believe it.
I'm sure it's fascinating.
Yeah, just touching glass and magic happens. But she understands it's science. So it won't be long before it's time for bed again, and. It looks like everything's fine. Like you're gonna make it. You haven't heard me, and obviously you haven't heard from anybody. No one's.
We've done some
out.
Party games. Like I've tried to recreate Cards Against Humanity.
Just scraps of paper, and you just trying not to keep it too dirty. Trying to see because you're trying to see
something that's not gonna completely scandalize the school teacher.
Yeah.
See how she feels about this two girls kissing.
Yeah. There can't be anything like references to atrocities that happen in the future that she has no reference on,
right? Yeah. I don't know. There's a bunch of different games that they're the kinds you can do with nothing at a party that still don't exist in this timeline. You go we're rolling this out. We're doing this weird version of charades. I
will say that in the conversations, though, you definitely don't go into a detailed version of future events. You don't tell her oh well, starting in the 1920s, then there's the radio, and then blah 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 blah. You don't do that. Because that seems a little too much, but you do explain smaller things about what things are like in 2016 in terms of art, culture, and what you know about the 1880s and everything else. In fact, if I look,
I think she might be most impressed by all the women's lib stuff that I'm rolling out.
I mean, she seems interested in that, of course, and she wants to know more about how. In fact, if you want to explain really quick. How are women treated differently in 2016 versus 1885?
Well, it's still not great, but it's a hell of a lot better, my understanding anyway. Women got the right to vote in the early 20th century. It was extremely difficult to make that happen, and even when it did, women of color weren't allowed to vote, and equality is still really fucked up. Women don't get paid enough. They don't get paid as much as men. A lot of advertising and media just does a lot of terrible stuff to perpetuate stereotypes that place women in spaces where they don't ever believe that they can achieve more, and it's a constant uphill battle to work that, but it has been working over 100 years or so to really get women in sciences and everything. But it's right now right now in 2016 in my 2016 the battle that's been most intense is trying to actually dismantle the systems that have been holding everybody back, intersectionality, people of color and women and transgender people and people of different sexualities. And I say all this recognizing that that's going to all that's even the terminology, people of color, she'll be wait, what do you mean, black people? I assume it'll all require a different explanation, but I'll give her, we've got literally all day and night, and maybe forever. So I'll stop and fill in the blanks for her whenever it needs to happen. You know, it's getting somewhere. Just not fast enough. None of it's ever fast enough. There's a lot of fear in the world, and it's just a lot of systems that are used to keep people down and hold people back. It's disgusting.
She says that sounds like a big mixture of good and bad news. Like that it's glad progress is being made, but surprised that it's not a little bit further along. She says, if I'd have thought that at least within my lifetime, we've had a good chance of.
What do you want, Clara? Like, I don't know about your perspective. What do you want for yourself? What do you expect? Like, what is your world taught you about who you are and what you can do, and how has it shaped what you let yourself believe about yourself?
Well, I think that my parents were rather quite liberal. When I was a young girl, my father bought me a telescope, and I got interested in astronomy, and
that's cool.
That started an interest in science that lasted my entire life up until now, and I was interested in all sorts of sciences, but mostly astronomy, little bits of chemistry as well. That's why I thought maybe it could be a scientist, but I settled for being a school teacher because no one would hire a woman scientist. But I took that passion and found an outlet that I rather quite enjoyed. Teaching children has been very rewarding, and I hope to spread that education to children out here who otherwise wouldn't have it.
Well, you know, Clara, women are responsible for some of the most important astronomical studies and discoveries of the early 20th century, in a large part because of patriarchy, because they didn't get credit for it, but they treated us as calculators. That's what they called. I mean, like in my time, a calculator is a little. Well, here, I'll pull up the app. like it's just a little number crunching machine. But they employed women at universities and institutions in droves to crunch these numbers, and it was women that were making the because we were the ones whose hands were dirty. With all this work, making the judgments about, or discoveries regarding the different ways that all the planetary orbits and stars and all this other stuff was working. We're actually, understanding the orbits of all these celestial bodies and stuff. That's all women's work. And also early computing, making the precursors of this machine. They were once the size of buildings, and women wrote some of the first programs. And the men sit back and smoke their pipes and take all the credit for it, but we're the ones doing the work until it gets to the point where it becomes prestigious for men to do this kind of work, building programs, building applications, figuring out what to do with computers, and at that level. And then they phase out women. And then they will actively make sure that women don't have those jobs anymore because they want the prestige of having them.
The more things change, the more they seem to stay the same.
I mean, fortunately, all that stuff, that's 70 years before my time. So it's not that way where I am. It's better.
Just fascinated. And you can tell that she's just so taken aback, but also interested in happy to hear about the strides that are being taken, but also you can see the frustration of hearing some of the lower points. But still, the conversation can easily last the entire day and well into the night.
You can do anything you put your mind to, but sometimes people need, like your dad, it takes a lot to see that you can actually have permission to dream in a certain direction. Sometimes people don't need that permission. Sometimes they need to see themselves somewhere, and it makes a big difference. So you being a school teacher and you teaching those kids, I think that's amazing. And a lot's going to change. A lot is going to change.
She really seems to take all that to heart, and at this point, I'd say it's probably later in the evening, and you probably already had dinner and everything, and storm is still doesn't look like it's going to let up. So as everyone starts to get ready for bed again, she goes over. She says, "Oh, I almost forgot." She goes over to the calendar and marks off the date with an X and says, "Also, happy evacuation day, everyone." And Doc is like, "Oh, yes, of course." And
I'm sorry, what?
Clara says, "Evacuation day. You don't celebrate in, well, I suppose in the distant future."
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, evacuation day is the day that the British left New York during the Revolution.
Whoa.
And
that's so specific.
Well, it, didn't happen that long ago, so it's still something we celebrate along with the 4th of July.
That's wow. Cool.
That's why it was going to be I imagine the schoolhouse would be full because we had a whole lecture planned about the American Revolution. So, thankfully, since we've closed down the school, I hope everyone else was able to make it, survive okay. So we'll have to just save that lecture for another time. But if you hadn't intervened, goodness knows what would have happened if I had a packed schoolhouse today.
Yeah, there were a lot of names on that monument.
So with that, she'll turn in for the night, and you can prepare for the next day.
And my beautiful future as a rootin' tootin' cowboy.
So I'll say that as you go to sleep, you wake up, snow is still going, but it is less than it was before. Doc was able to open the door a few points, like knock some of the snow down to see. And just before 11, a little after 10 o'clock, snow stops falling, and it starts to get more quiet outside. And it's like eerily quiet because there's just snow like as far as anyone can see. And Doc starts to like shovel through some stuff, make tunnels to get away from the house, and so take a look. Doesn't see anybody out there. Town is like way off in the distance, probably beyond some trees where you can't even really see. So Doc says, "Well, we can have our Thanksgiving as we planned. We have the food, and I know Claire's going to get to work, and we'd be happy to have you, Kate." So,
Doc, this is wild because my whole journey started on Thanksgiving and it never happened. So here we are. It's like maybe this is where it ends, and maybe Thanksgiving finally happens. So.
Still Clara Clayton, but it's going to be the Brown homestead. In fact, they say they're planned to be married on December 15th, so it's just a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Away. So Thanksgiving at the homestead consists of for snacks, there's almonds and some dried fruit.
Okay.
There is a turkey with stuffing, some sweet potatoes, and there is a dish of cranberry sauce. But on the side, there's also celery sticks that are presented on a leaf of lettuce as just appetizing things on the side. And she was able to bake a small pumpkin pie for dessert. And, of course, they have coffee because they've already had coffee and the rest. So it's a nice, really pleasant little...
It is. I mean, that's a lot of food for, two people alone, and so I'm happy to share it with them.
Well, that sounds like a lot, but for 1880s, everything is in very small portions. So, like, the turkey isn't the same type of turkey you'd get at the store today. The turkey's smaller, modest, but enough.
I assume it's not like a Cornish hen still.
No. But it's certainly not, Norman Rockwell, like
Sure.
massive butterball. Because it's probably a wild one that someone caught turned into the butcher for some coin, But it was strange to have Thanksgiving with people who weren't your immediate family, but yet the weird overlap of this time of you were getting ready for a Thanksgiving with the family, but with a broken family, but then suddenly it wasn't, and then suddenly it was even worse than broken. It wasn't celebrated at all, and everything. And now this is oddly like the most intimate holiday like this that you've had in a long time with people who aren't blood related but are very close friends. But it's just super nice.
Yeah, it is.
And we can fast forward that over the next couple days. Doc says it's going to take a couple days for people to dig themselves out and for the snow to go away and things to start to go back to normal. But Doc is already going to start to discuss plans to get things back on track and prevent this apocalypse. There's work to be done, and now that he's had this second, third, fourth, fifth chance at life, no time like the present. So we gotta get some stuff done.
Thanks for listening to Kate Was Here. To support this and other surprise RPG experiences, head to patreon.com/omniverse media.